for you before we begin. Live webinars are participant events. For some reason, I'm getting feedback on this now. Webinar leaders will address questions or comments that you pose in the chat box during their presentation, so feel free to express yourself in that chat box and they will respond. Recorded versions of the NLSA Best Practice webinars are available on the NLSA tab of the School portal. You must be a portal subscriber to access the recorded webinars. In addition, there are school best practices, and they are located on that same tab. If you've seen the webinar and you read the print article, it will add a lot to your understanding of the school. If you want to stay abreast of what's happening with NLSA, visit our blog spot. The address is at the top of the chat box, newsaboutnlsa.blogspot.com. We refresh that site regularly, and it has much timely information about NLSA. It's a great resource for people who are involved with accreditation in any way. And LCMS School Ministry also maintains an active Facebook page that allows our schools to connect informally. You are invited to share your encouraging stories and events on our Facebook page and learn about what's happening in other Lutheran schools. And the address to that Facebook page, the link, it can be found at the top of the chat box as well. I want to begin our activity today with a word of prayer, so please join me at this time. Heavenly Father, we give you thanks for giving us this day to praise and serve you. You are indeed an awesome God, and we thank you for using us as your instruments to share the good news of eternal salvation with children and families we serve. You have abundantly blessed the workers at West Portal Lutheran School. Thank you for providing us with the gift of technology that will allow them to share their best practices with those of us who are in attendance here today. Bless our schools and the educators who faithfully serve. Continue to provide opportunities to richly share God's grace and mercy with those we serve and our co-workers. Bless today's meeting and let it be a blessing to those assembled in Jesus' name. Amen. Today I am pleased to introduce you West Portal's principal, Mr. Gary Byer. Gary will take this webinar from here.
Good morning, and thank you, Terry, and good afternoon to some of you. Welcome to West Portal Lutheran Church and School. We are living up to our name here in San Francisco today. We're the Fog City, and we're about 50 degrees, but as I'm talking, I'm seeing the sun just beginning to peek out. As I mentioned, my name is Gary Byer. I am the principal of the school, and joining me today is Pastor Todd Arnold, our pastor, and the assistant principal, Christy Wood. Christy will also be pinch hitting for Mr. Les Morris, who is our 8th grade teacher and head teacher. He was going to be presenting part of this, but he is ill today, and Christy is going to step in for him and doing an outstanding job with that. West Portal Lutheran School is a K-8 school, and this year we are celebrating being 60 years old as a school. We are in an urban setting in San Francisco in the Peninsula area. If you are at all familiar with the area, we're about halfway between the Golden Gate Bridge and the airport. This year we have 490 students at our school, and we have 2 campuses. In the picture on the left is part of our Sloat campus that houses grades 4 through 8, and also our church is located at that campus. About 3 miles away is the Sunset campus, which you see on the picture on the right. Again, a much newer part of the campus. About 8 years old the building is, and we're really blessed with that. West Portal Lutheran School is not your typical or what you might call average Lutheran school. If you look at the statistics in the Missouri Synod report, our school is 84% Asian and 5% Caucasian. So with those demographics and our location really determined our best practices as to how can we meet the needs of the demographics and the location that we have. 60 to 70% of our school, the parents and the families claim no church membership. Probably the largest area in there would be the Buddhists. 7 to 10% of our school, the parents come from our congregation. One of the NLSA recommendations is that we would have a written evangelism program. And part of that program is our Partners in Faith. And again, our pastor has written an evangelism plan, which our congregation is carrying out at this time. And again, we continue with this Partners in Faith program. Connected to that is something called the Bridge Connection. After Pastor talks about the Partners in Faith, I'm going to ask Mrs. Wood to talk about the Bridge Connection and how those two work together. And I'm going to now turn this over to Pastor Arnold to talk about our Partners in Faith.
Hello, this is Pastor Todd Arnold from West Portal Lutheran Church and School. It's a pleasure to be participating today and to speak of a special ministry that we have here called Partners in Faith. Partners in Faith is a Saturday evening worship service that started in the fall of 2009 as an intentional outreach to families of the West Portal Lutheran School. I wanted to give you a little background on that. We did have for a number of years, had a Saturday evening service at 5 p.m. that suffered a little bit of an identity crisis. We didn't really know what to do with it, and attendance is waning. And also we had the concern that there were so many families in our school that were unchurched, that were unbelievers, and that we wanted to try to begin to connect with Jesus and with our West Portal Lutheran Church. And so we designed a ministry to help our school families meet their spiritual needs. Each Saturday evening that is a Partners in Faith service, about 18 during the school year. We don't have them on weekends when there's going to be a Monday off and things like that makes it a little bit more difficult to get the families to come on a Saturday evening. But about 18 Saturday evenings during the year, we have this Partners in Faith service. And the overall purpose of that service is to show how the church and the school and the home can partner together for the benefit of the families of West Portal Lutheran School. Our intent really was to introduce an opportunity for spiritual growth, especially for our families that weren't associated with any churches at all. So the Saturday evening service begins with a reception at 4:30 p.m. and it's sponsored by one of the boards or committees of our church. Food and snacks are laid out on a table. A classroom of students who are going to be singing at the service come in with their families and are greeted warmly. They sit down at the table. The members of our church have the opportunity then to introduce themselves and to start conversations with these families. And during that time also, the children are taken away to practice the song that they will be singing later on that evening. So it's another opportunity for fellowship among the parents and especially members of the church with the parents. After that half-hour reception between 4:30 and 5, we move upstairs to the sanctuary where we have a worship service. The format of the service is such that it's very family-friendly. We usually invite the children to sit with their parents. A primary class, one of our classes in the school, is invited to sing in a song that they have prepared. Our songs that we sing in the service are all songs that the children are familiar with, that they have learned in school, almost always from our All God's People Sing hymnal. And so when the children are sitting next to their parents, they see how familiar they are with the songs that are being sung. And the message is designed to aid in the spiritual growth of the family. It's going to be family-focused and family-friendly, and it will also give the family a better understanding of our Lutheran doctrine, especially those who may be unfamiliar with our teachings. We try to emphasize that they're going to be learning things that their children are learning in their classroom. We also, during that service, then take an opportunity to report on youth activities, to encourage participation by the children and in our youth groups, church activities, and the school calendar is also reported on so that parents become aware of things that are going on and we can continue to communicate with them school activities. We've had various themes over the 3 years that we've been doing this. The theme for the first year was the home, the church, the school, teaming up for the well-being of your family. And so the focus of most of those events were how we can partner together for the spiritual growth of their families. We also focused very much that year on relationships, since that is an important part of the culture here. Family relationships, relationships between friends, students and their friends, relationships between teachers and students, and all those things that are important to learn. The theme for the next year, 2010 through 2011, we introduced the Lutheran Liturgy 101. It was an opportunity to introduce our students to portions of the liturgy and their historical background, their biblical basis, and why we do what we do in our Sunday morning services. I try to make them more familiar for when the opportunity they have to sing at a Sunday service. The theme for this current year, 2011 and 2012, is Stories of the Bible, Jesus in the Old and the New Testaments. We are going through some of the more familiar Bible stories, familiar to us, but maybe not so familiar to them, and given the opportunity to show how these stories connect with Jesus. We have a question here that says that much intentionality here with Partners in Faith. Are the results positive? And I can report that we've had very positive feedback on it. I think the parents are participating in a very high percentage, coming out to the Partners in Faith services and commenting positively on them. Our attendance at our non-Partners in Faith Saturday service usually averages around 25, and it's a joy to preach to 125 at these Saturday evening services, Partners in Faith, because of the presence of not only the students who are singing, but their families, their siblings. A lot of times grandparents are present, because in many of our homes we have 3 generations living in the same household, and so we've had a very positive feedback, and are also encouraged by members of our congregation who are willing to support it as sponsors of the fellowship that goes on beforehand. The services are conducted in our church sanctuary. The fellowship takes place downstairs in our fellowship hall beforehand, and then we move upstairs into the sanctuary. So we are actually in the church and in the environment of our Sunday morning worship when we do have the worship services. I see another question coming. I'm about ready to wrap up my discussion on Partners in Faith, but we'll see if you have any other questions now that you would like to ask me before we speak of another ministry.
I guess not.
Okay, the second ministry that we'd like to discuss now is the ministry that's called the Bridge Connection. It's another intentional ministry to connect members of our church with the families from our school and vice versa.
The Bridge Connection began in the fall of 2010 as a dream of one woman. She had been attending the Partners in Faith and saw all of the ministry that was occurring before the service and wanted to continue that connection. Helen immigrated to the United States as a young woman with her family. Eventually, she came to know Christ through a Chinese Lutheran congregation. She married and had a family, and when it was time to send their eldest child to school, they chose West Portal Lutheran. The family quickly became involved with both the church and the school. Their second son entered and finished his elementary studies and moved on to high school as well. In the late 1990s, the husband began to have horrible headaches, and it was determined that he had a brain tumor and that the prognosis was not favorable. As this young family was preparing for the death of the father, the youngest son was killed in a car accident. A few months later, the father did pass away. At that time, Helen was left to grieve with her eldest son, who was in college at the time. Helen truly believes that it was through her faith and her connection with West Portal Lutheran that got her through those dark days. She began to be extremely involved in the church, joining existing committees and even starting a few with her friends. Helen even found a new love, a fellow church member, and had a very happy wedding and reception here on campus. It was due to this happiness that Helen felt compelled to share her story with the school families and to show her love of Christ with them. In talking with many members, some active, some were not at the time, she got together a core group of 14 members to start the Bridge Connection, a group to connect the church and the school families. This group comes from all walks of life and are united in their faith and longing to share Christ. All committee meetings are family events that include the entire family of each of the Bridge Connection members and starts out with prayer and fellowship. 3 events were held the first year, and 5 have been planned for this school year. The format for the events are as follows. They follow a church service, usually a Saturday night, Partners in Faith, and the dates are chosen to occur after one of the primary classes sing. For the price of $5, a full meal is served. Games such as bingo are played, and the evening ends with 4 to 5 crafts and cookie decorating in the school gym. Each evening is focused around a theme such as Happy Fall, Y'all, or Giving Thanks. The core group is divided into groups, and each group focuses on either the meal, the games, or the crafts, which allows the other members to mingle with the participants and help create an atmosphere for fellowship and provide opportunities for the school families to further their interaction with the church community and vice versa.
Thank you, Perry. Thank you, not Perry. Yes, thank you, Perry, for putting this on. Thank you, Christy and Pastor, for explaining the unique ministry we have here with the opportunities that have been given to us.
Terry's asked about the results.
Terry's asking about the results of the Bridge Connection, and what I'm going to do, Terry, if that's allowed, is I'm going to hold on to that one until I'm done with my introduction. Christy Wood's going to be talking again about the high school preparation, then I'll let her answer that question at that time. The number one reason that students come to our school is that we have a reputation for high academics. The unique situation that is in San Francisco here with the high school situation is something I have not seen in my 40-plus years of ministry. It is something that's extremely unique, and just something had to be done because of the opportunity that we had here. The high academic expectations of our parents has had some reputation here, and just to give you one example is that last year we took the SAT 10, the Stanford Achievement Test, 10th version, and the school-wide average of all of our students who took it in all the subject areas was at the 87th percentile. Last year's 8th grade, which is not an unusual 8th grade academically, in all the subject areas, their scores came in at the 90th percentile, and specifically in the math subtests, they were at the 93rd percentile. We understand that 1/3 of the high school students in the San Francisco area attend some private schools, so you can see that we're not unique in that many people are trying to get into these private schools. San Francisco has 7 Roman Catholic high schools, 10 independent or private high schools. There are 15 San Francisco Unified School District, what they call either alternative or charter high schools. And then there are 5 what we would typically call our area high schools. If a student does not choose to get into the Catholic, the independent, or the charter high schools, those students then go into a lottery. And it is truly a lottery where their name is put in a hat, pulled out, and that's the high school that you go to. Obviously, not too many parents are excited about that route into high school, so the avenue of trying to get into a specific high school is quite unique. Probably the number one high school in our area is called Lowell High School. Extremely tough to get into, and again, the long history of West Portal is that we've had a reputation of being able to get our students into that school. Again, obviously those students who qualify. Typically, our 8th graders go to about 15 different area high schools. Mr. Les Morris, our 8th grade teacher and head teacher for our Sloat campus, is the one who works with these families to get into these different high schools. We also understand that there are quite a number of parents who hire coaches to be able to get their kids into high schools. So that's why we also invited high schools here to listen to this as to some of the unique things that they may be able to do as their students move into colleges. I'm going to turn this back to Christy Wood, who's going to be talking about our high school preparation program, but I'm going to make sure she talks about Terry's question of the results for our bridge connection.
Quickly, the results for the bridge connection have been so favorable. We have lots of families that this is probably the only time that they come to church throughout the year is when it's connected to one of these bridge connections. And there's been a lot of pressure from the students who want to come and have their families come and the children understand the importance of fellowship and going to church, and they're teaching and modeling it for the parents. So we've had some wonderful success. We have, I can think of a good 2 families that are now coming to Sunday school regularly thanks to the bridge connection, and another 2 or 3 families that are coming to church every Sunday just because of the bridge connection. So definitely it's a success, and we're just looking and excited about ways that it will continue to grow and expand. But now moving on to the high school prep program that we have. As you heard from Gary, this is an extremely stressful process for our families. So as a result, the school administration holds a general high school information evening for the 6th and 7th grade families in the spring. We provide the families with a brief overview of the high school process, which outlines the school's responsibility of sending transcripts and evaluation forms, as well as the parents' responsibility of meeting the deadlines, which seems to be a problem. Our high school prep program has evolved over the past 9 years to now be a 3-step process. The first step is an 8th grade high school information night. This event is held in late September. It is a mandatory evening for all of our 8th grade students and their families. After a brief devotion and introduction of the evening in the church, the students are excused to the fellowship hall for their program. The parents remain in the church and are introduced to Mrs. Marjorie Donaldson. Mrs. Donaldson is a former admissions director at one of the private high schools here in San Francisco. Mrs. Donaldson walks the parents through a high school information booklet that the school administration has prepared and updated in advance. In San Francisco, there are 4 main categories of high schools: coeducational and private, Catholic, San Francisco Unified School District Alternative and Charter Schools, and finally, San Francisco Unified District Area High Schools. In total, our students have the opportunity to look over 40 high schools. In our booklet, we provide a brief description of each school, open house dates for each school, the school's interview dates, their entrance exam dates, as well as the all-important application deadlines. Mrs. Donaldson walks the parents through the booklet, sharing what she knows about each school and what type of student each school is looking for. She also outlines the parents' expected level of involvement and financial support. After the schools have been described, Mrs. Donaldson gives an overview of the application process. She walks the parents through the high school application for the coeducational and private schools, since 10 schools in our area use this format for their application. Mrs. Donaldson pays special attention to the parent part of the application and gives pointers for the parent essay and parent interview that most of the private schools require. As the parents are with Mrs. Donaldson, the students are in the fellowship hall attending the first of 3 etiquette classes presented by Mrs. Rosalinda Randall. Mrs. Randall has been a vital part of our program for the past 5 years. As a mother of 3 teenage boys, she has a wonderful rapport with the students. The students are very accepting of her criticism as well as her insights. Mrs. Randall starts the evening with a quiz about proper etiquette. Topics such as how to properly sit, shake hands, and introduce oneself are covered. In addition, a large section of this evening is spent on an introduction to proper interview etiquette. Student interviews are an extremely important part of the interview process for the majority of high schools for our students. Mrs. Randall also shares the importance of making a good first impression when the students are on their visitation dates. Mrs. Randall shares how important first impressions are. She reminds the students about making sure their shirts are tucked in, not to wear a hat inside a building, making sure your hands are clean, your hair is combed, and that one is wearing deodorant, as well as the important not to wear overpowering perfume or cologne. Mrs. Randall also shares how the student should sit on a chair, shake hands, and introduce oneself. There is a time when the students shake hands with one another and introduce themselves. During the next 2 classes, these techniques are further refined. Interestingly to note, we have received much positive feedback from both the high school admission counselors in our area as well as our parents about the etiquette program. Greg, I see your question about an outline for the etiquette classes. I can definitely get one to you. If you wouldn't mind just posting your email, I will definitely send it to you. The second part of our program includes the high school visitation. Representatives from the different high schools are invited onto campus to share their program with our students. Usually, a teacher or the admission director are present themselves, but more often than not, one of our former students who now attends that school tags along. Although the adult does the majority of the presentation, it is the presentation by the student that makes the biggest impression on our current students. Our students feel more comfortable asking the high school student about sports, about homework load, and most importantly, how prepared that student felt entering that high school after graduating from West Portal Lutheran. Our students also have the opportunity to shadow the different high schools as part of the application process. Although this is an important part of the application process, we do have to share with the families that while visiting high schools is important, it is a disruption in normal class learning, and we do limit it to only 4 high schools per student. Most importantly, we share with the families that we ask them to not schedule a visit unless they are pretty certain that their son and daughter qualifies and really wants to attend that school. We also share with the students that they are, just like any illness, responsible for all academics that are missed, and that they do need to be prepared for the next day. The final part of our counseling, our high school program, involves counseling, which is done by our head teacher, Les Morris. I really apologize. I hope I give Mr. Morris credit for all that he does. He is such an invaluable part of this process. Mr. Morris personally meets with each and every 8th grade family. He asks the family which high schools they are looking at, and then he may suggest other high school options available to the family. Most importantly, Mr. Morris ends each section by praying with the family and continues to keep the children in their prayers through this process. In addition, since English may not be the first language for some of our families, Mr. Morris has been known to help some families with their parent essay by correcting their grammar and their sentence structure, which truly is his forte. In March, when the high school acceptance letters are sent out, many of the parents will meet with Mr. Morris to seek his input as to which would be the best high school for their student. Mr. Morris has a wonderful rapport with many of the high school admissions directors. And unfortunately, in the situation when a student may not have been accepted to any high school, Mr. Morris has been known to go to bat for that student. And he will call a current or a high school and suggest that this said child would be a productive member of the particular high school. Maybe they should relook at the application for that child. Overall, our high school prep program seems to be effective in helping to prepare our students and their families for the next level of education. Greg, I really appreciate your suggestion of sending it out to the listserv, and I can definitely do that later this afternoon. At this time, we're pretty much done with our presentation. If there are any more questions, we will gladly answer them. If not, we really just thank you and appreciate all of you coming on and okay. Thank you, Terry. But we really feel blessed that we're able to share some of the uniqueness that we encounter every day here at West Portal Lutheran. This is truly a unique and wonderful and exciting ministry, and it's truly our pleasure to share it with you.
Just want to say a few words. West Portal is a pretty amazing school, as you can see. A few people may be typing in some questions. We've got a few minutes. We've taken about 30 minutes of the hour. If you have questions, type them in the chat box, and we'll provide some time for a discussion. I have a question of the participants who are here, and you can answer the question by, there's a little guy in the status box with his hand raised, and there are choices there. And among those choices are, you can raise your hand, you can agree, you can disagree. And I just want to ask you a couple of questions about the future of webinars with NLSA, Exemplary Schools, and LCMS School Ministry. Today I had an opportunity to talk with Steve Winkleman, who's the principal at Concordia School out in Hanoi. He was in our building. We talked about the fact that perhaps we could do webinars with the folks in Asia based upon, they're not an exemplary school by NLSA standards because they're not accredited by NLSA, but these are certainly amazing schools that are doing things in ministry. And would it be beneficial to you if we did webinar perhaps with Concordia Hanoi or Concordia Shanghai or Hong Kong International School? If you think that that would be beneficial to you, raise your little hand in the status box. If you do not have an opinion, just leave it blank. Or if you do not think it would be helpful, you can disagree with what it is. So just take a moment. I see. There you go. You got people. If you have ideas also for other webinars that you would like to do, or if you would be interested in perhaps even holding a webinar on some practices that you're doing in your school, you can contact us if you would be interested in attending those webinars. We've had a relatively small attendance at our webinars, and I think we've had some amazing best practices that have been shared. I know that folks are watching the webinars on the archived version, but I think viewing the live webinar is a pretty awesome thing because it gives you the ability to interact with the presenters. Clear your status and tell me what you think about that. This is an opportunity for a low or no cost in-service activity for your staff. And part of the issue is not only do we have the recorded webinars, and I'll tell you what, this was a great webinar because the sound was very good in it. And we have these available for you to watch, to view with your entire faculty as a staff development activity. And then in addition, we have the print pieces that accompany the webinar that you can distribute to your teachers, and you can use those as a discussion starter in a staff development activity as well. Any comments, questions, or reactions to those things? And also, and has anybody done that with their staff? Has anybody viewed, anybody who is here in the room, you can raise your hand if you have actually viewed an archived webinar with your staff and then used that as part of your staff development program. I see a few are raising their hands at this time. Low or no cost, and I know in this day and age of concerns about economics and how we're going to fund things, this provides a really great opportunity to share cutting-edge practices with your school. Today we heard about the practices related to enhancing ministry and to ensuring that students are prepared for success at the next level. These are some amazing best practices, and they cause us to think about things we can do at our school that might improve in these areas. I'll give you a few minutes to react in any way that you wish. Gary and Christy and Pastor also are still on hand to entertain your questions if you have any regarding. Lisa's got a good best practice there, and Stu also have good best practices as far as working with their staff with these webinars.